Tonight, we delve into the heart of darkness, where the trees whisper secrets of the past. Their gnarled branches reach out like skeletal fingers clutching at the fading light. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and decay, a haunting aroma that speaks of things long gone and best forgotten. But we are not here to forget, we are here to remember, to listen to the whispers carried on the wind, to unearth the stories hidden beneath the forest floor. Our first tale begins on a cold, moonless night, the kind of night that chills you to the bone, even through layers of wool and fleece. A lone hiker, a young man named David, stumbles through the dense undergrowth, his path illuminated only by the weak beam of his flashlight. He's lost, hopelessly turned around, the familiar trails vanished in the oppressive darkness. David's heart pounds in his chest, a frantic drumbeat against the silence of the woods. He checks his phone, the battery icon blinking a menacing red. No signal, of course. He curses under his breath misting in the frigid air. Fear, sharp and cold, begins to gnaw at the edges of his composure. He pushes onward, driven by a desperate hope of finding his way back to the familiar road, to the safety of his car. But the trees seem to press in closer, their branches forming a tangled web that snares him, holds him captive. The darkness feels alive, pulsating with unseen eyes. Then, he hears it, a faint sound at first, barely perceptible above the rustling leaves. A rhythmic tapping like a stick striking a hollow log. It's distant, but it's getting closer. David freezes, his blood turning to ice in his veins. He strains to listen, his every sense on high alert. The tapping grows louder, accompanied now by a low, guttural humming. It's a sound that seems to vibrate deep within his bones, a primal resonance that stirs something ancient and fearful in his soul. He spins around, his flashlight beam dancing frantically through the trees, searching for the source of the unsettling noise. But there's nothing there, only the endless rows of silent, watchful trees. He tries to convince himself it's just a woodpecker or some other nocturnal creature going about its business, but the sound, the rhythm feels too deliberate, too purposeful. He quickens his pace, his fear urging him forward. He needs to get out of these woods, to escape the growing sense of dread that's closing in on him like a suffocating blanket. But the tapping follows, relentless, echoing through the trees, always just behind him. As he stumbles through the darkness, David catches glimpses of movement in the periphery of his vision, fleeting shadows flitting between the trees, just beyond the reach of his flashlight beam. He tries to focus on them, but they vanish as quickly as they appear, leaving him with the chilling certainty that he is not alone. He breaks into a run, his lungs burning, his legs screaming in protest. But the tapping keeps pace, urging him on, mocking his desperate flight. He crashes through the undergrowth, ignoring the scrapes and cuts that tear at his skin. The only thing that matters is escape, but the woods have other plans for him. As he rounds a bend, he comes to an abrupt halt. Before him, bathed in the pale glow of his dying flashlight, stands a figure. Tall, gaunt, draped in shadows. Its face obscured by the darkness, but its eyes burn with an unnatural light, a cold, malevolent fire that pierces through him. David stares in terror, his breath caught in his throat. The tapping stops, the humming fades. A heavy silence descends, broken only by the frantic thumping of his own heart. And then the figure speaks. Its voice, a low, rasping whisper, seems to slither into his mind, wrapping around his thoughts, squeezing the air from his lungs. "You're lost," the figure rasps, its voice devoid of any trace of human warmth. "Lost and alone. But don't worry, you're not alone anymore." David wants to scream, to run, to do anything but stand frozen in the face of this nightmare, but fear has paralyzed him, rooted him to the spot like a petrified tree. The figure takes a step toward him, and David's flashlight flickers once, then dies, plunging him into absolute darkness. He hears a soft, dry chuckle, close to his ear. "Welcome home," the voice whispers, sending shivers down his spine. And then, David is swallowed by the darkness, his screams lost in the endless night of the woods. As we go deeper into the forest, our second story unfolds. The air grows heavy, burdened by an unseen weight. The trees seem to lean in, their branches intertwining to form a suffocating canopy. It's here, in this shadowed realm, that the whispers begin. They're faint at first, barely audible above the rustling leaves and the chirping of unseen insects. But as you listen, truly listen, they grow louder, more insistent. They're not the whispers of the wind, nor the murmurings of animals. These whispers are human voices, disembodied and ethereal, weaving tales of sorrow and despair. They tell of a young woman, Sarah, who wandered into these woods a century ago, searching for her lost child. Driven mad by grief, she succumbed to the darkness, her spirit forever bound to the trees. Now her voice echoes through the woods, a mournful lament that chills the soul. But Sarah's voice is not alone. Other whispers join hers, a chorus of lost souls trapped within the forest's embrace. They whisper of betrayal, of heartbreak, of unspeakable horrors witnessed and endured. Their voices blend and twist, creating a symphony of sorrow that seeps into your bones, infecting your thoughts. You try to ignore them, to block out the whispers and focus on the path ahead. But the forest has a way of ensnaring your senses, of drawing you into its web of despair. The whispers grow louder, more insistent, their words slithering into your mind, weaving dark fantasies that blur the line between reality and nightmare. You quicken your pace, desperate to escape the oppressive atmosphere, to break free from the grip of the whispering woods. But the forest has a way of disorienting you, of twisting the familiar into the uncanny. The path you swear you were following vanishes, replaced by dense undergrowth and impenetrable thickets. You're lost, hopelessly entangled in the forest's labyrinthine embrace. The whispers surround you, their voices a constant torment, teasing you with glimpses of your deepest fears, your darkest secrets. You try to scream, to cry out for help, but your voice catches in your throat, stifled by the suffocating weight of the whispers. Panic sets in, cold and sharp, as you realize the truth. The forest is alive, sentient, and it feeds on your fear. The whispers are its tendrils, reaching into your mind, sapping your strength, your will, your very essence. You stumble through the undergrowth, your clothes torn, your skin scratched and bleeding. But the physical pain is nothing compared to the torment of the whispers, their relentless assault on your sanity. You see faces in the bark of the trees, hear voices in the rustling leaves, feel unseen eyes watching your every move. The whispers intensify, their voices merging into a single deafening roar. They tell you to give up, to surrender to the darkness, to become one with the forest's chorus of lost souls. You resist, clinging to the last vestiges of your sanity, but the forest is relentless. It wears you down slowly but surely until you feel your resistance crumble, your spirit begin to break. Just when you think you can take no more, you stumble upon a clearing. In the center stands a solitary oak, its branches reaching up towards the sky like gnarled, skeletal fingers. But there's something different about this tree. It emanates a sense of peace, a stillness that contrasts sharply with the chaotic energy of the surrounding woods. As you approach the oak, the whispers fade, their voices replaced by a gentle rustling of leaves. You reach out and touch the rough bark, feeling a surge of energy flow through you, warm and comforting. For a moment, the forest's grip loosens, its whispers silenced by a power greater than its own. But the respite is short-lived. The whispers return, their voices laced with anger and frustration. They lash out at you, accusing you of trespassing, of disrupting their domain. But their power is diminished, their grip weakened by the presence of the ancient oak. You cling to the tree, drawing strength from its silent power. As the whispers swirl around you, their voices a fading echo in the face of the forest's true master. Our final tale will chill you to the bone. Deep within the most secluded corners of the woods, where sunlight struggles to penetrate the thick canopy, there lived a hermit. A man shrouded in mystery, his name whispered in hushed tones by those who dared to speak of him. They called him Silas, and he was said to be a man touched by darkness, his very presence a blight upon the forest. Some said he was a sorcerer, others a madman, driven to the woods by a past too terrible to bear. Whatever the truth, Silas was a creature of the night. his only companions the shadows and the wolves that roamed the forest's edge. His dwelling was a dilapidated cabin, hidden deep within a grove of ancient pines, their branches twisted and gnarled like the limbs of some ancient slumbering beast. The air around the cabin hung heavy with the scent of decay and the faint, acrid smell of sulfur, a testament to the unsettling rumors that clung to Silas like a shroud. It was said that Silas communed with the spirits of the dead, that he practiced dark rituals beneath the pale glow of the moon. Some whispered of sacrifices made in the dead of night, of blood staining the forest floor, of screams swallowed by the endless expanse of trees. But these were just whispers, tales told to frighten children and keep travelers from straying too far from the beaten path. No one dared to venture into Silas's domain, to seek out the truth behind the rumors. For those who did, well, their stories were never told. One night, a group of young adventurers, fueled by bravado and too much whiskey, decided to test the legend of Silas. They ventured into the woods, their laughter echoing through the silent trees, their footsteps careless and loud. They were young, foolish, and they believed themselves invincible. They followed the whispers, the rumors, the faint trail that led deeper and deeper into the heart of the woods. The air grew colder, the shadows longer, the forest pressing in on them like a suffocating hand. Still, they pressed on, their bravado slowly replaced by a gnawing unease. They found the cabin just as the moon reached its zenith, bathing the clearing in an eerie silver light. The cabin stood silent, its windows dark and lifeless, yet the air around it crackled with an unseen energy. The young adventurers exchanged nervous glances, their laughter silenced, their bravado replaced by a primal fear that chilled them to the bone. One of them, a brash young man named Caleb, stepped forward, his hand resting on the hilt of the hunting knife at his side. He pounded on the cabin door, his voice a shaky challenge in the stillness of the night. "Silas, we know you're in there! Come out and face us!" His words hung in the air, unanswered. The only response was the soft rustling of leaves and the distant howl of a wolf. Caleb pounded again, his voice louder this time, laced with a hint of desperation. "Silas, we're not afraid of you! Show yourself!" Silence. Then a sound from within the cabin, a slow, dragging sound like something heavy being pulled across the wooden floor. The young adventurers froze, their breath caught in their throats, their eyes wide with terror. The sound stopped, then a voice, low, gravelly, filled with an ancient weariness that seemed to seep into their bones. "You shouldn't be here," the voice rasped, its words barely audible above the beating of their own hearts. Caleb swallowed hard, his hand tightening on his knife. "We're just passing through," he stammered, his voice betraying his fear. "There's no passing through," the voice replied, its tone laced with a hint of amusement. "Not here, not anymore." The cabin door creaked open, slowly, revealing a sliver of darkness within. The young adventurers huddled together, their fear a tangible presence in the cold night air. And then, they saw him. Silas stood framed in the doorway, his figure shrouded in shadows, his face obscured by the darkness. But his eyes burned with a cold, unnatural light, their gaze piercing through them, stripping away their bravado, exposing their raw, primal fear. He took a step forward, and the young adventurers stumbled back, their courage failing them in the face of this creature of the night. "You seek knowledge?" Silas rasped, his voice a dry, rustling whisper. "Knowledge comes at a price. Are you willing to pay?" The young adventurers stared at him, their fear paralyzing them, their voices trapped in their throats. And then the wolves began to howl, a chorus of voices rising from the depths of the forest, their cries echoing the growing terror that consumed the young adventurers. Silas smiled, a chilling skeletal grin that stretched across his face like a gaping wound. "The night has teeth," he whispered, his voice laced with a chilling delight. "And it's hungry." The young adventurers turned to flee, but the forest had closed in around them, the trees pressing close, their branches reaching out like grasping claws. They were trapped, their bravado shattered, their courage devoured by the darkness that had claimed this corner of the woods. The wolves drew closer, their howls growing louder. their eyes burning with a predatory hunger that mirrored the chilling gleam in Silas's eyes. The night had teeth, and it was about to feast. As the sun rises, the shadows retreat. But remember, they are always watching, waiting for night to fall again. The whispers linger, the tales remain, etched into the very fabric of the woods. The forest holds its secrets close, guarding them jealously, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to stumble upon its dark embrace. These are just a few of the stories whispered in the woods. There are countless others waiting to be told, waiting to chill you to the bone. So stay vigilant, dear viewer, and never forget that the darkness is always listening, always watching, always waiting. Subscribe now for more chilling tales and delve deeper into the heart of darkness. The forest has many stories to tell, and we've only just begun to scratch the surface.